welcome to today's episode of the Balanced Approach podcast. I'm your host, Louis Padian. I hope that you're doing well and are enjoying the podcast and the topics we've covered so far. These podcasts are released every Monday, Wednesday and Friday, so be sure to subscribe wherever you are listening to be kept up to date. So, in today's episode, we will be discussing body shaming, which is probably something that you've probably seen a lot of around social media. And this was sparked for me by a person on TikTok, actually, who was part of a sort of a comedic page that were really good. They're called Four Brothers. And they still do really good stuff, but one of the brothers has left and started up a fitness account, which has been interesting. I think he means well, and I don't mean that in a patronising sense. I'm just saying that from a general observation. But some of his messaging can be quite dangerous and harmful, in my opinion. And he did put out a video that I left a comment on, where I thought he was body shaming people, telling people to look in the mirror. If you're not happy with what you see, then maybe you shouldn't have XYZ foods. So I left a comment basically saying that's not an effective approach. Shaming people has never been an effective approach and increased risks of certain conditions. And he done a response video that got a fair amount of traction, considering. Went through my points, completely disagreed with them in his opinion, when actually what I said was this is supported by the research. And that might be his experience. However, I feel that a lot of people potentially listening to this podcast would probably sway to more sides of potentially body shaming not being an effective tool for them in the past, and probably can really clearly remember times that they've been body shamed in the past, or whether they body shame themselves. So we're covering this topic today, hopefully giving you a bit more of a balanced perspective on it, and hopefully sort of supporting the argument that we need to step away from the shaming and look at other ways of way that we can support people in making healthy changes and support ourselves. So first of all, we'll cover what actually body shaming is. So body shaming refers to any negative comments, actions or attitudes directed at a person's body shape, size or appearance. It can be open, overt, it can be something like name calling, or it could be something that is a bit more subliminal, a bit more covert, where it's sort of staring at people. And this relentless negativity can actually leak into and permeate various aspects of our lives, from social media interactions to internal criticism. And when I work with people, this is often one of the things that we'll talk around. We might talk about previous experiences, and we tend to work on elements of self-compassion and working at more positive ways to improve and communicate with ourselves, but also improve and get better outcomes, but also promote healthier behaviours as well. So why would we do this? Why isn't body shaming an effective tool? And that is clearly from my experience and looking a bit more into it. The research supports this as well. So just 3 areas that you might be able to realise and actually see, actually these can be really damaging things. So first of all is reduced self-esteem. And this was supported in a 2018 study that found that body shaming significantly reduces self-esteem. Self-esteem is a crucial part of motivation, and that actually leads for healthier behaviour change in the long term. So when somebody feels bad about their body, if they themselves are shaming themselves, if other people calling them names, calling them out, all these sorts of things, then they're less likely to take steps to improve that aspect. They are probably going to be more self-destructive in their behaviours, and we'll probably see this. And often one of the things that I talk to about with clients and patients is emotional eating being sort of the go-to coping mechanism for people, and especially in this situation here. People get called names, they get told that they need to lose weight, that they might get told things like they're disgusting, all these types of things, and they will go home and comfort eat, because that eating gives temporary comfort, distraction away from the hurtful feelings and emotions, and it isn't productive to us promoting healthier behaviour change long term. So you might see them withdraw from activities as a consequence. So if they're in a team environment and somebody mentions something, it might stop them attending that team or that social activity. They might avoid social situations altogether, and I see this a lot with patients, that we work with patients who are complete social recluses. They don't interact with anyone, they aren't seen out and about, and their only sort of friend is probably food. And as a consequence, for years and years and years, low activity, low social connection, not much fulfillment in their life, but probably comfort eating quite a lot as a consequence, maybe due to things like pain or other aspects. And their BMI, I've worked with people whose BMI is near 60, and that has some severe health consequences pretty soon and long term, most likely, most definitely, in my opinion. And it's potentially part of that might be that the staring, people calling them names. And I've had these conversations with people as well, but the research supports this as well, that body shaming significantly reduces self-esteem. Another thing as well is increased risk of weight cycling. Again, a lot of these will overlap, but the pressure to conform to unrealistic beauty standards can trigger unhealthy weight loss practices and restrictive diets. And whether we like it or not, the images that are posted around with women is probably more prominent, and there's a lot more history of that, but men more recently as well, that it makes people feel bad. I know there was Protein World that did an advert on the tube a couple of years ago that was basically like, are you beach body ready? A photo of abs from what I remember, or a woman in bikini, I can't remember. And again, it's sort of promoting that we need to look a certain way in order to wear certain things. And a 2008 study, I should say, in the International Journal of Eating Disorders suggests that body shaming can lead to weight cycling, which is the repeated cycle of losing and regaining weight. Yo-yo dieting, you might have heard of it. This yo-yo effect can be detrimental to overall health, putting individuals at high risk of chronic diseases like diabetes and heart disease. And we know, and we've probably seen this, we might have experienced it ourselves, where we're on that constant cycle of, I'm either on it, I'm losing weight, I'm not particularly enjoying the process, I'm not enjoying my food, I feel like I'm over-exercising, whatever, or over-restricting my food. And then it hits to a point where I can't really stick to it anymore because I'm just sick of it. I'm told I can't have certain foods that I really, really crave. And I'm in a situation where I'm tired, I'm stressed, I'm overworked, underfed, and I just reach and I raid the biscuit tin, I raid the cupboards. And once you've had a little bit of it, you think, in for a penny, in for a pound. What's the point? I've ruined all my progress. All these thoughts going through your head. And whilst we're not saying that they are correct, they're completely rational, completely right. This process that people go through, this thought process, and it's completely understandable. But we don't want that to happen, and we try and stop ourselves. There's lots of things we can do to do that. But then they regain the weight because, you know what, I've ruined my diet, I'm off plan now. What's the point? They don't stick to anything. They sort of go hell for leather on highly palatable foods, increasing their calories, having lots of caloric foods, reducing their activity, and almost that binge mentality. And then they do it to a point where they feel like, and often the change doesn't come from a positive and self-compassionate place, it comes from a position of self-judgment, potentially body shaming as well, going, I feel I look disgusting, I don't like the way I look, I need to go on a diet. And during that process of regaining weight or gaining weight, we're not potentially or particularly in a good place either. We're not really enjoying the food that we're having, we're not enjoying the day-to-day habits and behaviours. So if you think about that cycle there's no enjoyment in there whatsoever. Where I was seeing the scale go down, which isn't a rewarding thing because that's what we want, but in the way that we're doing it, not particularly enjoying the process, or the scale's going up, we're beating ourselves up, judging ourselves, and not particularly enjoying the process of that either. So that's not a healthy relationship with exercise, the scales, our weight, our bodies, ourselves, with food. So it's just not a particularly good thing that we want to encourage, and again, body shaming can increase the risk of that. Last but not least, and very tightly knit to that, is potentially triggering disordered eating or eating disorders. So shame and negativity are associated with body shame, I should say, can have a massive impact on a person's relationship with food. A 2019 study highlighted the link between body shaming and disordered eating behaviours such as binge eating, potentially purging and things, and unhealthy dieting practices like we just mentioned. These behaviours can negatively impact physical and mental health, and can even progress into full-blown eating disorders like anorexia nervosa or bulimia nervosa. And these are things that we need to be really, really tight on, because the dangers of these conditions are huge and quite imminent. I know being overweight and being obese, there are higher risk of certain conditions and potentially can have quite bad impacts long term, but that's long term. Immediately, if someone slips into the obese or overweight category, it's very unlikely that we're going to see some immediate sort of risk to life potentially. I'm not saying that's definitely not going to happen, but if someone goes into that eating disorder mentality where they're underweight on their BMI, anorexia or bulimia is taking over, it can be very, very damaging very, very quickly, and very, very dangerous unless you get the right support in place. So again, body shaming, and I've heard stories of this as well, people who have really struggled, have had eating disorders in the past, said that comments from others would trigger them to sort of slip into a purging cycle, a binge and restriction cycle, and potentially have a lot of damage, even though the person who said it didn't mean to cause any harm or damage by it. Again, we need to be very careful with the words that we're using. So hopefully that's highlighted the dangers of body shaming and actually shown that it's not an effective tool in healthier behaviour change. And if you're a listener to this podcast, which I hope you are, you'll probably have heard me speak about compassion quite a bit, and that's probably one of the things that really, really pulls through in helping people with their healthier behaviour change. So instead of the negativity, it's really important to have a look at the other strategies that can cultivate a healthy relationship with food and our bodies to improve outcomes with regards to healthy habits and changes. So, like I said, first up, self-compassion, not self-criticism or criticism in general. So self-compassion motivates us to make healthier choices from a place of self-care, self-love and kindness, not criticism. Some studies, like one published in 2006, suggest self-compassion can be a powerful tool for promoting healthy eating and exercise habits. When we treat ourselves with kindness and understanding, we're more likely to make sustainable changes and act from a position where we can nourish our bodies and our minds as well, not necessarily think about restrictions and criticising all the time. And self-compassion actually allows us to acknowledge setbacks without shame and guilt, and that's another thing that we need to talk around and probably do another episode around guilt and shame, and recommit from a position of love and care to our goals with a renewed sense of self-worth, with a new sense of motivation. And that's why it's such a powerful tool, because if things go to plan, fantastic, you're looking after yourself, things are going well in regards to the process. If you're acting from a position of kindness and self-love and things don't go to plan, then you go, oh, that's really useful feedback. It's a really, again, with all these things, very simple but not necessarily easy things to do, but you can reflect it and go, oh, that didn't quite go to plan, but I'm trying my best. And you know what? It's not down to the effort. It's probably the execution or the actual tools that I've got for the job. So maybe I need to look at how I'm using these tools or what tools I'm picking for this job. So maybe we should try another one. And this is what I'll do a lot with clients and patients, is when they sit down with me, I always tell them, I'm not here to beat you with a stick and tell you off for doing things. Yes, I'll hold you accountable, but actually we're here to work together and sort of reflect on what's going well, because you know what, if that's going well, we'll keep on doing that. But if things haven't quite gone to plan, then we can reflect on potentially what didn't go to plan, why it didn't go to plan, and if there's anything that we can change to potentially have a better outcome next time. Not necessarily smash it and get 100% each next time on, but even just a better outcome gives us some feedback to go, okay, we're moving in the right direction. What else can we change to get a better outcome? So self-compassion, such a wonderful tool. I highly recommend it for people looking to improve their health, well-being, happiness overall, is really looking into developing that self-compassion long term. And it's acting from a position of self-love, self-care, acknowledging that you are not your thoughts, having that common humanity element in there as well, that none of us are perfect and we all have this flawed experience through life, and none of us are going to get everything right all the time, but actually we're doing the best that we can in the situation that we're in with the tools that we have available, and having that kindness at the foundation of it all as well. So self-compassion is definitely something I'd recommend and has been shown to improve healthier behaviour change as well. Next up, and this is something that you might have heard a little bit about, but often is sort of overshadowed by another sort of movement, and this is focusing on body neutrality. So many people are moving away from this concept of body positivity, which can feel like a constant pressure to love every aspect of your appearance and everything about yourself, when actually that's not realistic and people find that really hard to do. It can feel quite false, and I feel like that doesn't really promote a healthy relationship with your body, because it's still about judging yourself, just making sure that's a positive thing, and we want to move away from that. Body neutrality encourages people to accept your body without judgment. So it's not good, bad, it just is. That little dimple you have, it just is. It isn't amazing, something that you should fall in love with, but it isn't something you should beat yourself up over either. It's just something that is, and we need to be as neutral as we can towards it. But also taking a step away from just the visual aspects and actually acknowledging our body's capabilities. And this way it comes into like body functionality. So having a look at being grateful for the way that it allows you to feel, to pick things up, to move each day, to exercise, potentially to be physically active, to hold others. It allows you to move, experience the world and connect with others. All these amazing things. And this neutral stance, again, is a stepping stone. It's a step in the right direction towards a more positive body image, not body positivity, the movement, but actually just having a better relationship with your body as a whole. Next up, and this is something that I highly recommend anybody who's on their weight loss journey trying to improve their health, is celebrating non-scale victories. If you're trying to lose weight, fantastic. Use a scale as a marker of progress, but not the only marker of progress, because it doesn't always quite play ball. I've covered this in previous episodes about how you can do all the right things and it just doesn't show the progress that actually is happening within the body. Things like glycogen storage, hydration levels, food in the digestion tract, all count for so much variation within the body that can massively overshadow any changes in body fat, because body fat takes a while to change. So focusing on positive changes throughout the day. So I always ask people when they're checking with me, we'll ask for some wins that week. So what's gone well this week, but then also going, right, so what are some non-scale victories? And that could be my sleep's massively improved, or I had this really good conversation at work that day and I was brave enough to have a difficult conversation. Could be that I spent some time with my family this week and that's really important to me and that aligns with my values and goals. Could be that I've managed to hit my fruit and veg this week. So we're focusing on processes and outcomes alongside each other, but taking a step away from the scales. So focus on positive changes like more energy. So often I get people to check in like, where's their energy on a scale of 1 to 10. We might have a look at other measurements alongside the scales. So it could be measurements, could be how clothes feel, it could be trying new things or using new tools that we've been working on, or things that we know are processes towards helping us with our weight loss. So I've managed to go for a walk 3 out of the 7 days this week. I've managed to get my 5 a day in. I've had protein at most of my main meals. And these are all things that we should be celebrating, and that it's not just a scale progress, but actually things that are going to improve people's health and well-being. So like we said, all these things help towards a healthier lifestyle. Celebrating these non-scale victories can really help with motivation and actually allows people to reflect and recognise, and that's a skill that we all need to get a lot better at usually, is that reflective process of going, right, how have I got on this week? What has gone well? We automatically, a lot of us, and I know I'm guilty of this as well, we'll look at the things that we haven't done, what hasn't gone right, which we can learn a lot from, definitely, but actually focusing on what has gone well this week as well, and getting people, and one of the questions that I ask patients and clients all the time is, right, you've done what's happened this week, and then we go, so what went well? And initially a lot of people find it quite hard. Or today I had a conversation with a patient who, when I asked them to sort of scale how's their diet, they said, my diet's really poor. They'd list off all things that aren't so great about it, and I said, well, what's good about your diet? Tell me about that. And actually, when she had a think, there was quite a few things going well. That she was having a variety of protein sources in her diet. She was actually having a lot more fruits and veg than she actually realised throughout her day. She was good with her hydration. She quite enjoyed having beans and legumes in her diet. Amazing stuff. These are things that potentially were overshadowed by her going, well, I don't feel like I'm eating the right foods all the time, when actually she's doing a lot well already, and we need to celebrate that. So those are 3 things that I'd recommend to move away from body shaming, or more effective tools. And we know that true well-being really needs a holistic approach that prioritizes healthier habits, and not just people being a certain dress size, reaching a certain number on a scale. And part of that is building that supportive environment that fosters that self-acceptance without judgment, creating positive changes, not just losing weight on the scale, and developing a healthier relationship with our food and our bodies, as we know they will have better health outcomes long term. Some tips around building a better body image. Just quickly list them off. Unfollow accounts that promote body shaming or unrealistic beauty standards. They're not going to be helpful. Social media can be a real cesspool for those things, and really sort of just a negative place. So you're in control of social media. I posted something ages ago that went down quite well. It was something like, don't complain about who's in the nightclub when you're in control of the guest list. Don't complain about seeing things on social media if you're choosing to follow them. So remembering that, surrounding yourself with positive influences who celebrate you for who you are, people who accept you for you, people that you spend time with can significantly impact your self-esteem and body image. So if there are conversations that are going on around judging themselves, beating themselves up, try and nip them in the bud. And if people aren't willing to improve that and you feel that's having a negative impact on you, then potentially you might want to distance yourself from them a little bit and explain why. Family members having those difficult conversations around sort of comments on appearance not being okay, and actually potentially giving them some help with, because a lot of people want to help you, they want to support you, they want to do well by you. And those comments, even though they can feel like an attack, might be coming from a really good place, and actually potentially give them a bit of guidance on stuff that might be helpful. So potentially saying, I don't really appreciate that when you comment on my body, it doesn't really help with my body image. So if we could stop that, it'd be really helpful for me. But if you want to support me, then we could have conversations around X, Y, Z. We could, if you want to support me on my weight loss journey or me getting healthier, then maybe we can go for a walk together. Or maybe we could, I don't know, prep some food together in the evenings, and I can help you cook or you can help me cook. These sort of things can be really positive steps because people want to be helpful to each other, especially towards people that they care about. Practicing body gratitude, that's another way. So taking time each day to appreciate your body for what it can do for you, all the things that you've woken up for another day, that allows you to rest and feel full of energy in the morning. It allows you to hug and feel loved ones. It allows you to walk outside and feel the fresh air and see the sunshine. All these things. So reflecting on activities that you enjoy that involve your body and how your body supports you. And I used to do a practice a lot with the patients and clients, and it was about a letter to your body about all the things that you've been through together and how it's been there to support you, and how actually you might not have been as kind as you'd like with it, and how you're almost promising and dedicating now to build that more grateful, that more positive relationship with your body moving forward, where you're not going to beat it up and you're not going to pinch and squeeze at bits that you were judging, and actually really, really appreciating what it does for you. Alongside all this, something else that's really useful I find with clients is challenging negative self-talk and replace it with sort of positive affirmations. So when you catch yourself engaging in that negative self-talk about your body when you're judging, you can challenge those thoughts and replace them with positive affirmations. So instead of saying, I hate my thighs, try saying, my legs are strong and they carry me wherever I go. Instead of pinching at your sides, just going, actually, that's a sign of stored energy that I know I'll need at some point moving forward. If there's certain marks or dimples or anything like that, taking a step away in there and finding ways to reframe in a more positive way. So I know we've covered quite a lot there. I think it's been a really useful topic to cover, and hopefully something that people will come back to. And definitely if you feel that there's people around you that might benefit from listening to this and sort of taking a step away from body shaming, this could be potentially something that you might want to send them as well. So thank you very much for listening, and I shall catch you on the next episode. So there you have it. Thank you very much for listening to today's episode of the Balanced Approach podcast. If you have any questions, queries, or would like to reach out to me, please do. I am at Louis Padian Nutrition, which is at LOUISPADIAN Nutrition on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and all other social media platforms. If you're looking for support in achieving your goals and living a healthier, happier, and more balanced life in the process, click the link below and inquire about working with me. Remember to subscribe to the Balanced Approach podcast wherever you're listening for more insightful episodes, and I look forward to speaking to you soon.